first episode of Occupational Therapy Lived and Practice podcast. My name is Kenny, and I'm joined by my very good friend
Femi, and we are occupational therapists. You see, we've been friends. I would say friends. Well, we have a part of us that we call colleagues. We are more friends than colleagues. I mean, for those who know us, those that are close to us, they know we are good friends. So we are occupational therapists, and we've been on this journey together since 2005. A long time, isn't it?
Yeah, it has been a long time. That's like almost 21 years now. And we actually met when we studied occupational therapy back then. And looking at the journey from then till now, none of us could imagine how life has taken us through different things right now and different continents, as we say.
Right.
Just to look at that.
Different continents. Yes, I agree. From a tiny school, 2-classroom school, back then in Oshodi. For those who know, was it?
Excuse me, it was Yaba, not Oshodi.
Yes, Yaba in Abbey Road. He later went to Oshodi, after the whole protest of 2006, if I remember.
Don't get me started on all of those.
Yeah. So from then, this practice has taken us far and wide, from Africa to Asia. Now we're in Europe. It's not surprising because then people thought we were dreaming. So,
True.
Yeah.
We had big dreams, and we say things that seem like a jest or that seem like it can be realistic, and it's just so surprising that we are living those dreams right now. And really, this first episode is going to be all about why we started this podcast, why we think this podcast is necessary. We just want to be two friends reminiscing on different things and where we've come from and where we are right now. So we are happy that you can join us. We are happy that you're interested in listening to what we want to say. We're happy that you tuned in, you subscribe, you like, and we hope that we are able to get you excited for more episodes and you're able to key into things as we go along. It's going to be we are hopefully thinking that we're here to stay and we're able to sustain this for a very long time.
Indeed. Yeah, so the journey, we would like to start with how the journey started. You see, when we started studying OT in 2005, we can't say, we couldn't at that time. Now we can categorically say we've, carved a niche for ourselves. So back then it was more of a hopeless situation because where OT in Nigeria back then was, we wouldn't say it was in its infancy, it was in its pregnancy stage at that time. Because those who had been the founding fathers of OT, who traveled out of the country to study OT at that time, they were more or less very old. And of course, they were giving their best. I remember Tolori, Mama Emesha memory. They were, up and running. And Mama Akiyemi, in particular, was a lecturer in the school.
And Chief, don't forget.
And Chief Wegu was my very own mentor. So, we admired, I would say, I admired the strength we put into the little beginning.
Yeah, true.
Up to now, I still feel good about how we started, how we encouraged each other back then in FSOT, and the journey was in 2005. We called ourselves Course 4.
Yeah, because we are the fourth set in the school, because FSOT, for those who don't know, for people that are not aware of all of this, is federal, and that is where we met, and that's one of probably the second school in the whole of Nigeria back then producing OTs. And I think it was just by chance I came across OT, to be honest with you.
Right.
I was reminiscing the other day and I just kind of was able to picture the first time I went for the entrance exam as well as the face-to-face interview. Mm-hmm. And they were like, why did you choose OT, or why do you want to study OT? And I'm like, I've only crammed the definition of OT from the Oxford Dictionary. And I was able to regurgitate that back to them with the interview phase. But I think it's been a whirlwind journey from the School of OT, and then went back home, and then stayed home for like a year trying to get
Mhm.
jobs. Myself, with my very good friend Joseph, moving from one place to the other in Lagos, you know,
Yeah.
trying to find jobs or trying to get people to employ us with our diploma back then. And then I went back to working with my dad in his bakery at the time before I came to join you. Yourself, you were
Yeah.
working in Port Harcourt at the time.
In Port Harcourt, yes. And it was really a long, not very long after I finished
Yeah.
also. And then I started working with Mrs. Doctor, now Doctor Mrs. Amu in her private organization back then. I was volunteering. And this is it. I want to encourage the young one, I would say the new therapist just coming out that, see, volunteering is one of the things that could shoot you to stardom or to fame, I would say. At some point, when you do something out of your heart, you do it diligently, even without
Yeah.
expecting to be paid for it. Sometimes it goes a long way in, connecting you to the right set of people you need to meet in the profession. And that was exactly what kickstarted my journey in this profession. By, at that point, there was no way, I guess, back then, after our graduation, I won an award. I mean, won 10,000 naira for the best in psychiatry. That was
Yeah,
the
you
money I
did.
had
You
of
did.
it. And I went to Katangwa and got some few clothes.
Yeah. Those who don't know what, for those who don't know what Katangwa is, where we get the fairly used, or as they will call it in the UK, pre-loved clothes that were shipped
Yeah,
from Europe back to Nigeria. And
yeah,
then if you want to wear something a bit more fanciful, but you don't have the money for it, that is where you go to get it at the cheapest because they are like pre-loved or used clothing
yeah.
exactly.
And that was the only thing money could buy at that time. And then
Yeah.
I got myself a pair of trousers, I think two pairs and about four shirts, and that was it. And my OT journey started on, and then I went down to Port Harcourt. I didn't know anyone out there, with faith in my heart and the desire to excel in the profession. I went all the way, and that was it. The rest is this story we are about to reveal.
Absolutely. I mean, I joined you in Port Harcourt then. Port Harcourt is, just to enlighten some of our viewers that are not familiar with Nigeria in general. Port Harcourt is we call it the southeastern part, south of Nigeria. It's in that side of Nigeria and it's quite far away. By road travel, it's like 12
Yeah,
hours
from
from
about 10,
Lagos.
12 hours.
Yeah, exactly. And that is also putting into context the fact that it's really relatively unsafe traveling on the road at the time with not so good roads, as well as possibility of attacks from robberies and stuff at the time. And then I just left myself that has never left home before or be kind of like by myself. I left all the way to Port Harcourt and the funniest thing was that I was quite young. I was
Yeah.
very young at the time.
You travel all by yourself, and dad was like,
Still in my
he's now a man.
I was still in my teenage years, like teens, and just thinking having to start life by myself. Thank goodness you were there to help guide and all of that. And it's just looking at that. But at the same time, it's just to also look at the fact that we went in not thinking much about what the salary was. We were just excited to want to practice.
That's it.
Because the funniest thing was that, like I said earlier on, myself and my very good friend Joseph were job hunting in Lagos, and we were offered the same salary in Lagos that we turned down because we planned it in and like, if they don't offer us this particular level of salary, we will both say no because they were interviewing us separately on the same day.
Yeah.
It was the same amount I went to take in Port Harcourt. And the reason was the fact that after all of the job hunting that we were saying, I stayed home for a long while and I was just desperate to want to practice. And when this opportunity came up, I was just like, yeah, you know what, let me jump at it and go to a different state, different culture,
Yeah.
different everything, different language to what I can speak. And just, I guess there's a divine, I don't mean to go spiritual, but there's a divine arrangement
Yeah.
around that.
Yeah.
And it was just meant to be, really.
And if you remember back in FSOT, we will gather ourselves together on maybe on a Saturday, talking about how our life will be shaped in the
True.
future that we never knew anything
True.
about. And,
True.
our guys will come around and, in our new cars and everything,
True.
people will be like, these guys are daydreaming.
Dream on,
Just to
guys.
bottle that spiritual part. Sometimes, whatever it is you pass, mostly will come to pass, but it is not without backing up with the action. Of
Yeah.
course, which is why we left our comfort zone then and all the way to Port Harcourt in the south.
Yeah.
Now, so you want to talk about why this matters, why we think we need to do this at this time, Kenny.
I mean, it's just to look at things, and I'm like thinking, I keep reminiscing on a lot of things in recent times, and I'm like, it's about 20 years when we started this OT journey. And to also look at it in the fact that you and I have been together in almost every single part of the journey,
Right.
from school to Port Harcourt to Benin, which is in Edo State, also South in Nigeria, working there, and then to going back to school in India, and then coming back home to the different types of work, to private practicing, to struggles of trying to get study leave, to
Yeah.
struggles of how we manage to live out to further study with in terms of finances
Yeah.
and all of that, when your other colleagues are moving forward and you feel like you're stuck in this
Hmm.
circle, and to look at all of that and see where we are now
That's
and the
correct.
kind of level at which we are at this very moment and the kind of positions that we hold where we work at the very moment. Is just see how far back we've come and to just reminisce on the journey, and it probably might be able to resonate with any of our viewers,
Yeah.
people that feel like they seem to be stuck, just like we once felt, financially, professionally, thinking of how to go about, how to scale to the next step.
That's
And
right.
maybe just, we are not here to give advice or anything at all, as such, or educate people per se. We're just here to talk about our journey and to talk about both OT as a profession and how it also has shaped our lives.
Right. Yes.
To family, we are both married to OTs, for example. To just building all of this is just something to, I think, needs to not be kept,
To
because
ourselves.
we don't know who we might be touching.
That's right. So most of the time when I think, about this whole journey, I look at theoretically we were there back then. We did very well both in FSOT and back
Well,
in
I
India.
I I didn't. Sorry. Just to lay it out there. I was still reminiscing with a friend of mine recently as well, just talking about it, and I'm like, I barely got a lower credit. Sorry, in back in school of OT at the time, and this is just the truth.
Two.
No, he was. I was like, I saw my friends that would play football together. I mean, you guys, there's a lot to reminisce. There's a lot to talk about. This is just a preamble to a lot of these things that will come around, but it's the fact that I look at my friends that we play football together, we read together, and we go to the exam, and I come out and like they're like in the upper credits like you guys, and I'm like barely scraping it to the lower
And
credit
at that
part of
time
it.
now, we were older. I mean, we are still older.
I
So
mean,
with me spending 5 years after secondary school, just walking in the hotel, roaming around the street for a whole 5 years. I mean, that was a long experience for me to, I wanted to at least
but it's
do
not
something.
just you. It's not just. It wasn't. It's just, to be honest with you, I'm trying to say is the fact that people. There was a time, just to quickly fast forward from what we were talking about. There was a time back in Nigeria where, not to brag or anything, by the time they mentioned 10, 15 OTs in Nigeria, I will be among one of them.
Yeah.
And people look at you or look up to you and think he's so smart, he's this or that, he's doing well in his not knowing that I wasn't really book smart at the time in when we were in school of OT. But at the same time, now that I'm thinking about it over the years later on that I thought about it, I figured that the practical side shaped my theoretical knowledge eventually.
That's
Normally, it's usually opposite is the case, where the theoretical side eventually
yeah. Yeah.
go into it. And then the more I practice, get excited, get interested,
Yeah.
Because I think while I was back in FSOT or while in School of OT at the time, back in 2005, 2006, I just came out of secondary school at the age of what, 15, 16. And I jumped in. I really didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know
Hmm.
why I wanted to do what I was doing.
So, yeah, I think that
It
that's
was
that's
just
the same with most people.
it was just a school, and we wanted to get into school,
Mm.
and you wanted to feel like an adult, and then you get carried away. There was no, at the time, there was no real passion toward what I was doing until I started practicing. When I started practicing and I see the effect of my profession on people, I think that kind of like stimulates something in me to now want to go back to the theoretical aspect and be able to marry them and find
Yeah.
a way to help. I think that's where the thing
I
came
think
about.
that's what we call the lived experience, which
Yeah,
is, it's not what the textbooks can teach. The theory will remain the theory, but the lived experience as a professional is the most important part of your practicing life. You know, the most of the time the textbook will only prepare you for a little bit of what you are to experience on the field. It is only when you continue to be passionate about what you do, which, to buttress what Kenny was saying, that's when you become passionate. You really become passionate about what you're doing. That's when you learn a lot of what you missed in the theoretical aspect. Because this passion will push you to want to teach what you know, the
yeah,
little bits, and as you teach, you want to study more to show yourself approved to those you are teaching. And that's what brings that wealth of experience that we are bringing to the table on this podcast this time. We are going to share a lot of values, a
of
lot
course.
of values, and there are certain personal life experience that many people really don't know about us that we will also be sharing on this
We
podcast.
we will be
So
very vulnerable. I think, obviously, with caution, because internet never forgets, of course. And then you don't want. But the point is that we would share things that matter. We share
yeah.
things that people will be able to resonate to. There's a lot of stories for us to
Mm.
talk about 21 years of experience, living this OT experience.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things to share. There's a lot of ups and downs. There's a lot of different things around, finding your identity as an OT as well, which we are still doing till today, even in the
Mm.
NHS. Things around burnout, when you feel like, is this all I'm going to do for the rest of my life? Am I, feeling having those kind of feelings? Those are the things that we would really go deep in, and how you come out of that, or how we came out of that and now stepped up and scale up and then start growing and
Yeah.
getting better day by day. And I think our stories is not, we are not here to speak like an expert. No, we were
No.
far from that. We don't know all the answers. Everybody's experiences are different. We are just here to talk about ours and talk, and then you are just looking at us. It's just going to be like you looking at two, whether strangers or, if you know us, known
Yeah.
people that are just talking and having conversation about so many things that has happened in their lives.
Yeah. And on this first podcast also, we want to more of do advocacy. There are so many people in Nigeria of today. Nigeria is a country of about 250 million people, if not more. And if you look at the number of OTs we have across the various hospitals in Nigeria, I don't think we are up to 5,000 OTs put together, serving 250 million population. And of course, this is because we are not saying enough yet. It doesn't matter how many people are on the social media talking, we are still not saying enough. So, from this podcast, also, we will be talking about occupational therapy, which would throw a little light or a big light, as the case may be, to what occupational therapy is, and the aspect which is economical. That
Yep.
economical aspect, the part where you make a living, the huge living. You can see us today. We are in Europe, we are in NHS, and those parts we will talk about them as well. The practicing across different continents, navigating healthcare system, professional identity, and everything that has to do with the impact of this work on the life of people and us.
Yeah, I mean, we would talk about life as well, how OT has shaped our lives and how we've grown. from back then till now. Some episode will be obviously reflective, as you can tell from some of the things that we've been talking about right now. We would have some reflective side of things. We'll have some talks about practicals, some of them will be deeply honest. And because I think those things are very scarce these days, people are not being honest with one another. And I think that's one of the things I proud myself about. Like, we talk honestly and we just hit the nail on the head. And we would have people on this podcast at some point, people coming in to share their own experiences.
That's right.
We'll be able to reminisce with people that we've been friends from back then, colleagues in different parts of the world, people that we've met on the journey, people that we've worked with, whether back home or here right now, people that also have different experiences completely from us. Because I know that obviously at some point we would have different and diverse set of viewers where they will also want to hear some certain aspects of their own practice. So we will be able to dive deep with our guests in from different parts. So stay tuned. You might be able, even if it's not for anything at all, maybe not for learning or anything, at least maybe laugh at our experiences or something, or when we reminisce or reflect on things, and then you will see how our life was lived in the early 2000s or something like that.
Yeah. It's also, this podcast will be for OT students and the therapists, both in Africa, in Asia, in UK, in the Americas. Yes, this is for all of us, and even some healthcare professionals who might not have heard anything about occupational therapy. If you ask an average person, a practitioner of any profession in the Nigeria hospital, about occupational therapy, it was really surprising. As early or as late as 2017, 2018, we still had to do a lot of advocacy within the hospital environment where we were back then. You see people not knowing what occupational, even the sister profession, many of them still, we still had to go in locking horns into, fighting about things that are meant to just be, but well, that's a story for another episode. Anyways, we know that students particularly will learn from our experience. There are so many people, a lot of people reach to me on a daily basis, especially those who were changing their profession. They wanted to be OT. They were just looking for, validation. What do you think about this? Do you think I should go into it? I was once a nurse and I'm thinking about changing. And I gave my own, it's not a bed of roses, right? But I gave my own bit of experience, which I believe encouraged many of them to choose OT. And today, they are giving testimonies, giving their input to human life, getting people out of their troubles, making people feel better. And, that alone, apart from the monetary aspect, which we
Of
will
course.
talk about, because it's OT is rewarding as it is satisfying. So if you stick around long enough, you will see how we made our first 1 million naira. I'm very sure you will want to hear how we did it before we.
Majority of our viewers will be able to resonate with some of our stories, and some people that feel like they are all alone in this journey, they will be able to relate, and hopefully, you'll be able to feel like, yes, this is part of the process.
Yeah,
It's not the ending. It's just part of the process. And if someone like us can be where we are right now, then you can too.
that's right.
And also, just like I said, just some of our colleagues that will see these and view these and will be able to see, or even outsider, or even people from other profession that will see this and will be able to be like, okay, this is how these people live or how their experience is, and also be able to be enlightened
Yeah.
about what OT is really.
Yeah. So this will be a space to reflect, to
Yeah.
share, and hopefully to make others feel less alone in their journey. Join us as we continue. We might as well invite you, any interest,
I mean,
new viewers. Any one of you can be a guest on this show.
absolutely.
And
I mean, you just wherever it is that you're watching from, leave a comment under this. Tell us where you're watching from. Share your own stories if you want. in any of our upcoming episodes. Feel free to express yourself as much as you want to. It's going to be a rough start for us because obviously we are not tech bros, we are OT bros. So we'll figure it out as we go along
Yeah.
together.
Maybe we can actually hire someone. If any of you is a tech pro, you can show interest. We can hire you to help us with editing and broadcasting and manage our platform. This is not for any reason. It's just for us to showcase what we have. And if this resonates with you, follow the podcast and join us as we continue the
Yeah,
conversation.
just thank you for listening to our very first episode. We hope that we have much more of this, and then we would see
Yeah.
you on the next episode.
Yeah. Thank you. And bye for now, guys. Thanks.